Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 13, season 4 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, I thought it was a pretty decent Magic round, but there was a pretty frustrating Warriors loss that got heaps of headlines throughout the week. First of all, how was your weekend, and what did you think of Magic round?
Evening, Brad. Weekend was good. I was really enjoying Magic round up until our result, obviously, but I'm not so disheartened by that. We'll cover it more, but it was good. Some really good matches. How was your weekend?
Yeah, it was pretty good. As you say, I really enjoyed the footy this weekend. Warriors game, was disappointing, but not as bad as it would have been in years past.
Yeah.
So I came out of that match disappointed, but still a bit more confident about the year to come. So, we'll cover that more as we go on. But while we're here live on Wednesday evenings, 8 p.m., you'll also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our stories of the week, a review of Magic Round, an update on our tips. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys as well as questions we've got for each other. We'll then preview round 11 and make our picks before ending the night with a recap of Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show. See, we've got Ken, Simon, Jacko, and all that are here. We may as well jump straight into the top stories of the week, Richie.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy.
I tried to help us out a little bit because Paul's back tonight and I didn't want us to go long. So I've reduced our news stories because there's kind of one story that's kind of taken over everything on this side of the Tasman. And basically on the other side.
How do we define long? We under 4 hours? Is that short?
We're on our way to 2 hour shows. We're trending that way.
With the NRLW coming, it will probably happen. I'm sorry. But obviously there was the Warriors loss to the Panthers on the weekend. And the one NZ CEO, Jason Paris, got himself in the news, tweeting about the Warriors loss, questioning if the refs had money on the game. He did backtrack the cheating element of his tweet, but maintains that there's a level of bias towards the Warriors. NRL have been rumored to look into what they can do about his comments, and the referees are looking at a potential defamation case. I've got his backtrack tweet here, so I'll just read it out before I throw it to you. He said, "I don't think that the NRL refs cheats. No one comes onto the field to do that, but you can't argue with some of the inconsistencies against the Warriors, and it happens every single week." You go, mate. What do you think of all this?
A lot of drama around this, isn't it? I think had his backtracked tweet been the first tweet, maybe that's probably more appropriate. But obviously, and he put it in his words, he was in the heat of the moment, coming from a passionate fan's point of view. We've probably said similar things in the past in the group chat, but we're not CEOs of a main sponsor and putting it out, broadcasting out to an open audience, obviously. It's, and like Simon said, it's not a good look. The major sponsor, particularly that he used the words cheating of the highest order, I believe it was. Doesn't come across the greatest. I was probably feeling a little bit the same way watching the game and some of the calls, not just this game, the past 25, 30 years. But he probably overstepped the mark a wee bit. I don't know what the NRL can do with it, but it'll be interesting to see.
There's talks they might fine him, they might fine the Warriors. I was talking with Paul before we went live. There was I don't see them going to court. I don't see it working well. There's too much crap around it. I'm trying to find, I don't have a less eloquent way of saying it, but like I was saying to Paul, there's all the complications. If the refs do take him to court, what does that do to the NRL? Does that mean that those refs that are taking him to court aren't allowed to officiate any Warriors games while it's happening? and things of that nature. And, do the NRL really want it to go to court and then say the refs do get a call wrong in a Warriors game? Does that strengthen his argument against them if they're in battle with him? So I think it's going to go nowhere. I think there might be like a tap on the shoulder saying, can you keep it quiet? What do you got there, Paul? I can't even read it.
Oh, I was just putting the tweets up.
Oh yeah,
on the screen there. It does. Yeah, I was trying to do a quick search and couldn't find the original one that he put. But I'll see if I can find it.
All right. But yeah, I think there's. I was telling Paul a funny story because I do believe there is a bias, but we all have biases, ourselves included. Mm-hmm. It's an unconscious bias. It does exist. There's been studies in like football and things, and says it does happen. Paul Kent, friend of the show, he did a great sentence. He said, "There's no unconscious bias, but if you're a top tier team against a bottom tier team, you're going to get the rub of the green," which is unconscious bias. Yeah. So he was no.
It's either unconscious bias or conscious bias.
Yeah, it's bias. Yeah. It's not going to change. I think the reason it's blowing up is because the Warriors have faced Melbourne, Roosters, and Panthers in 3 weeks. Those are all teams that will have that bias because of the caliber of team they are. If it was, we played them over the space of like 2 months, it wouldn't be as much. But it's the fact you had them back to back to back. Every iffy call is going to swing their way. It's not right, but it's just what it is. I don't know how they're going to fix it, but I think it's just a lot of pent-up frustration. He's a sponsor. He donates money to the club. And to see after COVID and everything, they get those 3 teams in 11 days as well. It's not great. Which is kind of like what he's saying there, right?
Being fed the game by referees. Look, I was having a look at his account. He's only got 4,000 followers. I mean, that's not very many, folks. You think that I have got some.
Look at the humble brag here. Come on.
Yeah, comes a flex.
Where's my? I can't even find myself. This is not very good, is it? But I've got some. I've got like 18,000 followers. As I was saying to you previously, I don't think this becomes nothing unless it gets picked up by a paper and gets put in the papers. And that's why it's not so much the tweet; it's the fact that a journalist has found it and then quoted it that I think has made this one blow up. I don't think it would have even registered if it hadn't been put into the papers.
Yeah, and Small Metalhead there commented about Fonzie. That was the podcast I was telling you about, Paul, that I've listened to half of it before our show. But he said it's more the NRL doesn't respect the Warriors as a club, and it's I think the treatment they've got since the COVID break kind of shows that way. And he also had the good analogy about bias about the children. I told Paul he made an analogy that if you've got you'll know this, Richie, if you've got a really good kid and then you got a couple of duds like you do, and they're in a room, you leave the room, you hear something fall off the wall or break, and then you go into that room, you're looking straight at one of the bad kids, right? You're not looking at the good one. It's that type of thing. I've just bastardized the elegant way he said it, but that's it's interesting. But do you think anything's going to come of it? I know my question kind of goes like this later on, so I don't mean about the Warriors, but I mean about the actual situation with Mr. Paris.
Something's probably going to come of your comments, because now if my kids see this, they're probably trying to figure out who the dud is.
Mate, we all know. But
I'm with you, mate. I don't know what could come of it, really. I mean, what can the NRL don't have anything to do with 1NZ? I mean, obviously they're our major sponsor. They can't do anything to the club, really. The club didn't have anything to do with it, and I think
they've distanced themselves from the comments as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like all the all the talk coming out of Webby and the players, we've got to own what we can control, and we're not worrying about things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think much will come of it. And but yeah, I do like that the club. I can tell. I can't guarantee it because I'm not in there, but I'm pretty sure the comments that he said are probably comments they're sharing internally. But they're not leaning on that, because the last thing you want is that to seep into the player base.
Yeah.
Where anytime there's a bad call, they drop their heads, because this team has been, regardless of the last 3 weeks, they've been really good. And the moment you let those mental mind games start to come in, that's when you're going to see them kind of fall down the other side, which we don't want.
Yeah, and the other thing one thing you had mentioned pre-thing was that maybe that the NRL would invoke the Telstra clause and mean that when One New Zealand's sponsorship comes up, they're not allowed to renew it. But looking at Jason Paris there on Twitter, he's giving a lot of love towards Telstra, saying that Telstra have always been and continue to be excellent to work with. Even when we were called Vodafone and they had a competitor with the same name in Australia, they let it go for the good of the game. They are great sponsors. So he's clearly buttering up for keeping on good terms with Telstra, which is handy to see. He knows which side his toast is buttered on that one.
Yeah. And if they wanted to try to oust them as a sponsor, they can do it, I guess, but it's going to be more trouble than it's worth, because the bad blood you'll get from effectively taking, I don't know how much money they give them. It's at least $1 million a year they give the Warriors as a sponsorship. If you're taking $1 million out of the kitty, it wouldn't be a good look for the NRL. And we know with Abdo and Volandis, they love to be looked at in a nice light. So things like that won't go with them.
And we're one of the more profitable clubs for the NRL too, aren't we?
Yeah. I can't. I don't have the stats on it, but
from what I can remember,
well, if
they always talk about it.
I think there's only one team over here, and you get a whole TV deal over here because of them, or it definitely inflates it. If there's 3 or 4 teams here, they'd be less profitable, because obviously it's split between them. But as a one team, you got to say it's got to be good for them. Look, it'll blow over, I think. But the only thing that they could do is try to invoke that Telstra clause. And I say Jason seems to have been very quick to try and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and the comment from Simone Metalhead there saying, if the referee set a precedent, all bottom 8 teams just want it to be fair on both sides. We don't want special treatment against the Dogs this Friday, and that's true. We you just want a fair shake, that we'll get into it more in the game. But Jackson Ford Simbin, I can take that on the chin. I think I said that to you during the match, saying I don't agree with the call, but that's what's been happening the last few weeks. If that tackle happens, you get sent to the bin. But a Panther, I think it was Isaiah Yeo, did the same thing. Yeah, he did the same thing and didn't get it. And it's that. If he had been Simbin as well, there'd be no talk about it.
Sifakula with the strike, and then Latrell Mitchell does 3 strikes worse than that in one play in the next game.
Yeah, so it's more things like that. If I do want to move on from all of the refs are bad talk, because it does make us look like whingers, and I try my best in my reviews to the last 2 weeks I've had to talk about it just because there were some howlers. But in all 3 games, I still remain, regardless of the calls, the Warriors still had a chance themselves to win. So it's not the refs cost us the game. So I don't want that to come across that's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, the refs have always been bad. I know. I played for long enough, and I argued with every single ref I've met.
Me too.
So yeah, they're just not very good at their jobs. It's just part of it. But yeah, we'll move on to more friendly news. A bull broke free from its handler and ran around on the pitch while Catalan's players were warming up in the Super League.
This is serious, hard-hitting news.
Yeah, it was funny. No one was hurt, thankfully. But I don't know if it was the crowd spooked it, and it was actually funny because if you watch it, all these big footy players were like running and jumping into the crowd, and there was like this middle-aged lady kind of just stood her ground, and the ball came up to her, and she grabbed its lead and took it back to the handler. And it's like all these big, scary, tough men were running away. But yeah, I just thought it was funny, and I thought it was a good little story to put on the end of all the heavy talk about the refs. But what's your take on the ball, and is there any animal you would like to see come out with the NRL teams to potentially break out and thing? We've really only got the Broncos to have a little pony.
Have a tiger at the Tigers game.
Well, tigers could be dangerous, or a panther.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would be too scared about the rabbits.
They should have a big aquarium along one side and have sharks swimming around it. That'd be fantastic.
Just put one in a little bathtub there. Yeah, I did look into like the reason why there was one there, because it was St. Helens versus the Dragons, so there was no bull thing. But it was, I think, the owner, Simon will probably fill us in better. I think the owner of Cattlelands, he breeds bulls, and it was like one of his prize ones, so he was basically just showing it off. And
yeah, I was going to say it's lost. It should have been at a Bradford game.
Yeah. And yeah, Simon said you could follow, you could have a dolphin from SeaWorld for the next Dolphins game. Yeah. That's like Ace Ventura's movie where they had the Miami Dolphins with the little tank in the corner.
Yeah.
We'll write all these down and send them to the NRL for ideas. But yeah, next I did cut down the news, but I got a few little ones. Matt Lodge is rumored to be shopped around to other clubs by the Roosters as they look at ways they're trying to keep Jared Waerea-Hargreaves for another season. I don't know if anyone's willing to really take Lodge. He's still a good player, don't get me wrong, but his track record of leaving contracts earlier than he should be doesn't put you with a lot of confidence. Jacko said Lodge to Manly. Wouldn't surprise me. They've got what's his face? I can't even remember his name now, Richie. Aaron Woods. They grabbed Aaron Woods. They'll grab anyone there. I think he's still got some time with him, and yeah, Roosters for salary cap issues. In all honesty, I feel like he'll probably still be there, and they'll find a way, as they always do.
Aren't they talking about in the media possibly Suoli'i being released early? That could be the window to sign Matt Lodge, sign Matt Lodge, or a Jared.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I forgot to put that in our news, so we'll put it in here now. There's rumors coming out that the Roosters are looking at letting Joseph Suoli'i go early. His form's kind of dipped, it's fair to say. Phil Gould came out and said he doesn't think it's true, but thinks it's more of a leak this to the media so Joseph, sorts his shit out and actually starts performing again. But yeah, what's your take? Do you think Suoli'i's going to leave early?
Well, he said he wasn't going to, but we know the Roosters can be pretty cutthroat, and can chop people and bring new people in at the drop of a hat. So, I think if we go off Joseph's word, then he'll stay. But wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he would be cut loose as well.
You're a brave man taking an NRL player at their word.
Yeah, true. Especially a young man like Suoli'i, who's sort of flipped and flopped on contracts.
Yeah,
already in his young career.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'm sure we'll get some news when it actually happens and talk about it at a later date. But yeah, it's interesting times at the Roosters. I think they're feeling a little bit of pressure at the moment. So, yeah, there might be some movers and shakers there. But speaking of moving on, Ben Ikin, he's left his role with the Broncos and he's now been announced as the CEO of Queensland Rugby League. I think he starts that job at the end of May. But what's your take on that? I think he had a lot of work to do at the Broncos and they seem to be heading in the right direction. But I think this job at Queensland Rugby League was kind of more what he was interested in. It's like a bigger role. And he's very switched on. I can honestly say I barely watch 360 now that he left.
Yeah.
That's more of a I don't like Braithen Astor thing than anything else, but I really liked his thoughts on all the things that happened in the NRL when he was on that show. And I think he'll do well for them there.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't think it's much coincidence that once he took up a role at the Broncos, they started making some pretty big moves. They had a lot of tough times prior to his arrival.
Yeah.
And there's been rumours of him sort of not seeing eye to eye with Kevy Walters too. So don't know if that had something to do with it as well. But I think he'll go well with Queensland. Obviously, that's a role that'll suit him.
Yeah. But yeah, congrats to him for that, and hopefully it does well. And so we got a comment from Nicholas about a ridiculous mindset of the week from Paul Kent. He said, yeah, maybe the Warriors don't get calls going their way because they're not usually a top 8 team. Solution, be a top 8 team. How do you become a top 8 team if your matches aren't officiated in a non-biased manner?
He doesn't always make a lot of sense, Paul Kent.
No. I don't know. I can see what it's that, just be better. It's not helpful, but, it's not wrong either. But we could sit here for hours talking about Paul Kent's opinions on things. But yeah, we'll go in. I only did one signing. I know there's been a few, but I've just gone Royce Hunt. He's extended his stay with the Sharks until the end of 2025. I think Jaden Campbell extended yesterday as well. So we'll make it 2 there. What's your take on both of those? Because there was all that talk about Campbell getting pinched to be an Eel.
Yeah, good. Both signings good. Obviously, Royce Hunt's established at the Sharks now, and he brings a lot of mongrel to their pack. And Campbell, pretty obvious, he's a gun for the future, following in his old man's footsteps at the Titans as well. So I think he enjoys it there. So good for both.
I do like seeing someone like him who is a talent not taking his ball and going home because he's not starting all the time.
Yeah,
we've seen so often. He's willing to buy this time. That could be a bit of his dad's wisdom coming through, and his dad saying, like, you could jump and be a first grader tomorrow if you jump, but is that going to be better for you in a few years? Or you stay here, learn the craft, and go through gradually. That's the way I prefer to see the youngsters come in. But yeah, it's good to see some smart decisions. But we're going to injuries now. We've got a couple. We've got 3 head knocks and a destroyed knee. So Mitchell Moses from the Eels, Egan Butcher from the Roosters, and Jackson Ford from the Warriors are all on the 11-day stand down for head knocks. And then Ed Cossey from the Warriors has I just had knee injury, but they had a press release recently just before we went live. He's got a medial femoral condyle fracture, which I think means a bung knee, Richie.
Yeah, it does.
And he's going to be out for 5 to 6 weeks. So there were people I know that were at Magic Round, and like we were talking when he was hobbling around saying, you can't keep him out there.
Yeah,
there's something wrong. He's got to come off. And then some of those guys that were there said that, he was in tears when he came off the field. So we knew it was bad. But yeah, 5 to 6 weeks. He's been really good this year. So it's disappointing to see him out, but hopefully, he gets right and he can come back as soon as he can. But what's your take on those injuries?
Yeah, the first 3, just 11-day concussion period. So pretty standard there. Just gutted for Ed. Like you say, he's been going really well. It's been a bit of a breakout year for him. He seems to have taken really well to Andrew Webster's style of play, and he injured himself doing a big play. He came out of the line and whacked Stephen Crichton. It was a really big play, and it's just unfortunate he went knee to knee with him because, he's been going really well.
I was devastated he didn't get tackled the week. Crichton got it for tackling Dylan Walker.
Yeah, I know. Cossey's one was better.
Cossey's one was better. But yeah. And I give him credit, that injury doesn't sound good, and he was out there for a lot longer than he should have been. And he even, diffused a try at one point when he was on, one leg. So, he was showing he was tough, but thinking in the long term, get him off. But so that was it for the injuries. I did see Jacko mentioned about Turbo's. I think he's asking about Turbo's injury. I think he's still got the same one he's had, from last year, and I think it just hasn't come right. But they've decided, a 60 to 80% turbo is better than no turbo at all, I guess. But I think you're going to cover him a bit when we talk about that game, aren't you?
Yes.
So we'll move on to Naughty Boy Corner. First week in what seems like forever, Richie, no suspensions. But there were 4 players charged. Corey Waddell and Murata Nakora got $3,000, and Jackson Ford and Jermaine Tanoa Brown got $1,000 each. I don't think any of them were really that bad. I'm thankful that no one got suspended. I thought Jackson Ford was going to get thrown under the bus for his, hip drop tackle and miss some games. But hopefully we don't see any suspensions because it'll make our show quicker. Because I think I'm blaming that because we had so many suspensions every week.
We did. Tanoa Brown's one was funny. In back when we grew up watching League, Brad, those two, Warrior Hargraves and Tanoa Brown, would have just belted each other. But now what it's come to is they're just Jared was standing there saying, "I'm going to crack you. I'm going to crack you." It was hilarious.
It is an interesting way to get a penalty, though. If you stop, if you refuse to play and say, "I'm going to punch him, ref," and then the ref's like, "No, it's a penalty," and gives you a penalty. Interesting time. So we'll move into Magic Round. We've been jibber-jabbering enough, Richie.
Yep.
So first game was Friday. The Raiders defeating the Bulldogs 34-30. If you want to give me that rundown.
Yep. As you said, 34-30 to the Raiders. Was 6 tries to 5 for the Raiders. Jordan Rapana got 2. Xavier Savage got 1. Matt Timuko, Hudson Young, and Jared Croker were the 6 try scorers there. 5 tries for the Bulldogs. Jacob Preston with 2. Jake Avarillo with 2. And Hayes Perrin with 1. That was the scoring.
Yeah, so I'll start us off. Talk about the winners, the Raiders. I thought the Raiders started with a hiss and a roar. It looked like they were almost scoring at will. But they started to slow down in that second half, which we've seen before. And I was starting to get concerned because, I picked them. So I need all the bloody picks I can get. But they did enough to hold on. Very, very courageous effort from them there. 4 wins in a row now. They're building steam, and I think the attack is there. They just need to work a bit more on their defensive reads, kind of similar to what I say about the Titans. It's great to score 34 points, but if your opposition scoring 30 points, it's a little bit of a red flag as well. So, what was your take on the Raiders?
Yeah, I thought they started nice and fast. Then had a hint of a Raiders fade, but credit to them for holding on. Like you say, that's their 4th win in a row, so they're building nicely. They're not blowing teams away, but the Raiders seldom do. They often grind out wins, so it's good signs. They started a bit slowly this year, but when you look at them now, they're in a lot better position at this point of the season than they were last year. And we know they went on to go all right last year, so. They should be encouraged.
Yeah, and your take on the Bulldogs?
Pretty much rinse and repeat all our comments from the past few weeks about them. They've got plenty of ready-made excuses for why they haven't been winning games with their injuries and whatnot, but this Bulldogs side this year has a lot more grit to them than the Dogs teams of the past few years. Obviously, new signings, new coach, new way of doing things, so it's still promising for them once they get all their cattle back.
Yeah, I kind of got the same. So they showed composure in their attempt to chase down the lead, but I think they just had a few too many errors and some poor discipline that let them down. As you said, once those pieces start coming back, some of those players, they'll get back into that form. It's amazing that Josh Adokar magically making it back earlier than expected this week against the Warriors. But if he is back, it's a massive addition. He's been sorely missed. But there's some good young talent in there doing great things as well. So the future's bright for the Bulldogs. It's probably just not as bright as I anticipated this year was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, your player that stood out?
I had to go with Matt Timoko. I think you did as well.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
he's just barnstorming. He seems to do it every week now, and he makes a heck of a lot of meters, ton of tackle busts. Got a try assists. So I had to go with him. Would love to see him get some regular game time, international level.
Yeah, I've got some of the stats here. I went with him too. He ran for 200 meters. Had a line break, 2 line break assists and 2 try assists. So kept himself heavily involved. And yeah, I think he deserves more time playing first grade. So yeah, great to see. But we'll move on to the next game on Friday. Broncos defeating Manly 32-6. If you want to give us that rundown.
Yeah, you bet. 6 tries to 1. Unfortunately, if you're a Manly fan. So for the Broncos, Selwyn Cobbo grabbed a hat-trick. Billy Walters, Jesse Arthurs, and Herbie Farnworth grabbed the other tries. And 1 try to Manly, Ben Trebojevic in the 77th minute. So a wee consolation try there to avoid the donut. Otherwise, a pretty miserable night for the Sea Eagles.
Yeah, so talking about the Broncos first. First and foremost, I thought they were very brave in this away match. We know they get a lot of home games. We give them crap every week, but to win an away game is something to be really proud of for them. So congrats,
That's
Brisbane. But yeah, they made it look easy. It was basically a training run from start to finish. They are a dangerous side, but I want to see if that continues when they actually get to leave Brisbane. I think I don't have the stats here. I think they've left. Have they only left once so far?
They went to
left Queensland. I mean,
they played Penrith round 1. I'm sure they may have left one more time. I'm just trying to think of which game it was.
It's like two times.
Yeah,
to leave
1 or 2 times
in 10 rounds is pretty fortunate. But yeah, what was your take on Brisbane?
Yeah, they made light work of it. Back to their attacking best after a poor game the week before against the Bunnies. But back to their attacking best. I think they might find things a bit harder come Origin period because I think they'll lose a few. But I mean, at full strength, this Broncos team look a real threat to any team, and I think they've set themselves up well enough now with a good enough record that they can afford to drop a couple games at Origin period, and they'll still canter into the top 8.
Yeah, well, we saw what happened when they didn't have Mam and Haas.
Yeah.
So go in, I think that first game they missed Origin is Napier when they play the Warriors. So they will be without Haas, Carrigan, Walsh might be gone as well. They got at least 4 that will potentially be out.
Yeah, maybe Capewell.
So we'll get the baby Broncos. So but yeah, they've built enough of a lead at the moment that if they end up losing the 3 games during Origin, that's not too bad. But yeah, your take on Manly before we forget that there was actually another team.
It didn't seem like there was another team on the night. Really poor night out for Manly. They were never in the race. Error-ridden performance. Nobody really standing up for any positive reasons. They've looked a very up and down team this year, and this week was a pretty big down week for them.
Yeah, I've kind of said the same. They never really fired a shot. Too many errors. Their attacking shape was predictable, which made it easy for Brisbane to defend. They need more from their stars if they want to get back into the 8, which I think will segue into your player that stood out. But who was that?
Yeah, I put Tommy Turbo because we know at his best he stands out for all the right reasons, but at the moment he's just standing out because it doesn't look like Tommy Turbo out there. Physically, he's out there, but he's not affecting games like like we know he does when he's at full fitness. I think he's still lacking a lot of confidence from his injury. Yeah, and like you said, maybe they conceded that 70-80% Tommy's better than no Tommy, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's very short-term mindset from the club. If that is, I'm speculating. We can't say for sure that's what, but it's clear that he's not 100%. But the fact of the matter is, when he's sitting there recovering, they're losing. So, but yeah, he went to the States and had all that treatment, and it's hard to say it didn't work because he's back, but he's not 100%, and Ryan Pappenhausen still isn't playing, so it's not like you come back magically cured. But I think if they confidence could be a big thing. Basically when he gets into open space and puts his ears back, he breaks something. So that's always going to be in the back of your head. Thankfully, I'm not built that way, so I've never had that worry.
Well, injury prone or built for speed?
Injury prone, but not built for speed. I can't pop a hammy. I couldn't even tell you where they are. But yeah, it's not looking good for Manly at the moment. But yeah, if they're going to get better, they need him to get better. But I cheated. My player was Sal Nkobo. When in doubt, pick the guy that got a hat trick.
It's not really cheating. He was really good.
He's really hit his stride this year. So great to see him doing well. Great. His intercept try was really good. And, the sound from that crowd when he got the ball and was gone, it was great. But yeah, I thought he's been having a stellar year, and long may it continue. Put him in Origin so he doesn't have to play us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they will too. So there's another one that'll be out. That's good. Yeah.
So next game, Panthers beating the Warriors.
It's our game.
18-6, Richie. Won't take you as long, but you want to give us the rundown?
Yeah, for sure. So 3-1. Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Spencer Lenu, and 1 try for the Warriors, Adam Fanua-Blake. Go on. Take us away, Brad.
Well, despite all the 20 minutes we talked about referees at the start of the show, Panthers played well here. Not their best by far, but they did play well. They directed the game well. They didn't score a lot of points, admittedly, but they squeezed the life out of the Warriors and refused to let them back into the match. Cleary was just playing the territory game. And it's, as close as it was for the Warriors, it's really hard to try to get back into the game when you're spending, almost your whole set deep in your own half just trying to get out. But yeah, it was a good game from the Panthers. Not too much to criticize from them. I think, the Warriors defense needs to be shown a bit more respect than what a lot of people in Australia have been saying, like how, the Panthers just really looked a bit iffy on attack.
Yeah.
And it was more them. I think it's just the Warriors defense has got a lot better. But, winning by 12, that was my prediction in my review, Panthers by 12. So I finally got one. But, thought it was a decent outing for the Panthers. What about you?
Yeah, they defended staunchly, as they always do. They won the key moments as the game wore on, admittedly with a little bit of rub of the green. Maybe that's my unconscious bias talking.
Which you've now made conscious.
Yeah, but a very typical Penrith win, even when they're not performing at A+ standards by their standards, they still find a way to get the result. Typically professional win from them.
And your thought on the Warriors?
Very courageous to hang in there, which has become a hallmark of our team. Really happy with the defense, especially given we played 20 minutes with 12 men. The 6 points, obviously 6 points this week. We got nothing against the Roosters, but the Panthers so often keep points to 12, 10, 8, 6. Their defense is just so hard to crack. So I'm keen to see what we do with our attack this week against the Dogs.
Yeah, I got a lot of pushback in my review this week. A lot of people don't like me anymore, it seems. But I was getting pushback because I said I thought the Warriors looked the better team for the first 20, but
We
then
did.
died off in the final 60.
Mm.
They just lost a lot of steam, as I said, with the Panthers forcing them to play deep. Losing Kossi early on, having to try to protect him while he was out there. Then, two Simbins, a forced HIA, Ford not returning from a head knock. There was a lot of circumstances that were going against them. But to their credit, they conceded one try in that 20 minutes. They had 12 men against the Panthers. So as soon as that happens, you expect it just to open the floodgates. But the Warriors, to their credit, did really well in keeping the score low. You don't want to be that team that everyone praises for their heart and courage, and you lose every week, though. So
yeah, 100%.
We need to see them step up, get some more wins. The 3 games just gone were the 3 that we're all worried about. They're gone. The light's at the end of the tunnel now, hopefully. So good things moving on. But yeah, we'll talk about it more later, but a must-win game this week. Your player that stood out?
I picked somebody from the losing team. I went with Sean. It wasn't always perfect. Couple of funny kicks, but
his kick chase was on though.
No, that's what I mean. Effort areas. He had that hunger and that look in his eye, like he wanted to pick the team up, put them on his shoulders. Little flashes of vintage Sean, where he did the off the right foot and made a line break, grubber ahead, chase his own kick, force a repeat set. That's vintage, old school Sean. So, I'm still loving what I'm seeing from Sean.
Yeah, we didn't even mention it. There was the rumors of him becoming a Tiger.
It's rubbish.
It's rubbish. Don't want to segue into news from there, but yeah, I don't see it happening. That's why I didn't even put it in the news.
Yeah.
But yeah, my player to stand out was Nathan Cleary. Thought he was super courageous after getting almost knocked unconscious by Sifakula with that vicious attack. But he, in all seriousness, he just directed the side well. He was pinpoint with the kicks, and it was a Cleary performance. Good effort, but well done to them. So we'll move on, pretending that game never happened.
Yeah, yes, please.
Next up, Sharks losing to the Dolphins, 36-16.
Yeah, wow, big result. Was 6-3 for the Dolphins. Isaiah Katoa, the Hammer, Tabua Fido, Valence Tefari got 2, the big man on debut. Connolly Lemuelu and Tisi New grabbed the tries for the Dolphins. 3 tries for the Sharks. Ronaldo Mulitalo, William Kennedy, and Tig Wilton. Yeah, surprise! I got cooked on the hop there, Brad. I obviously took the Sharks.
Yeah, I think. You and I both picked the Sharks. Simon was the only one who picked the Dolphins.
That's amazing, Simon. Great work.
Surprising outcome here. But I put on my notes, I think we've got to stop underestimating the Dolphins. They've got attacking threats all over the park. Their defense is solid. Isako's accurate with the kicking tee this year. They should remain in the top 8 for the remainder of the season. I don't see, we were talking about their depth, and I feel like they've really settled in with those players that hit the bring up and are doing good. Cody Nickream is actually looking like an NRL player again. Little Katoa, he's barely out of the nappy with, I think, had 3 halves partners and looks like a seasoned pro. He's doing really well. Valence, gets pulled in, does well. They're just really all playing. In fact, I forgot to mention it last week. It was Wayne Bennett's 900th game.
Yeah.
We should have thought about that when making our tips potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a solid outing from the Dolphins, and they're really been a great story for 2023. But what did you think about them?
Yeah, first of all, it hurts a little bit seeing, like you say, Cody play so well. You and Aikens playing bloody well. It hurts a little bit, but I've got no doubt left in me anymore. I'm gonna start tipping them more often. I think what Wayne Bennett's got this team doing is so impressive. They play simple, run hard, defend hard, play for each other. They've proved time and time again this year that's no fluke. So I think they're a big problem for any team in the comp.
And your thoughts on the Sharks?
I don't know. I don't know what happened here. They look really good the past few weeks up until this week. They got blown off the park early, conceded 30 points by halftime, and there's never really a hint of them getting close in this game. You know, they got back-to-back tries just prior to halftime, but outside of that, it didn't look like they had it in them this game.
Yeah, I kind of had the same. I've just got here, they looked unshark-like. They were dangerous on attack, but they just couldn't keep hold of the ball. That was the problem. I think it's a wake-up call match for them that will make them very dangerous in the long run, though. It's come at the right time where you can go, okay, no, we can't just go out there and half-ass it and get the win. We actually have to put effort in. So, it's probably not great for all the teams coming up to face them soon. But as my predicted premiers, it might be good for me in my predictions. But who was your player to stand out?
The big man on debut. I had to shout him out here. I think you do as well. But just on debut, I've seen some of his highlights before this game and looked like an absolute monster. It was always interesting to see how it would translate to first grade. And, you know, if that debut's anything to go by, it's just a hint. Obviously, he looks like a monster. I heard some comparisons to say like Connie Harrell, blokes like that. So
they say that with any fat centre, mate. You know.
Yeah, but you got to love a big centre, don't you? It's always fun to watch.
I picked him as well. I thought it was a great debut. There's still a lot of work to do for him to be a regular first grader. I think Wayne Bennett even came out, kind of said there's work on like conditioning and things like that. But I don't even think he had a full preseason with them because he was still kind of like not a member of the Dolphins in the preseason. He's their lawnmower. He was mowing the lawns at the stadium and stuff like that as like a side gig while he was earning very little playing for Redcliffe. But yeah, I think he's under the right coach to become something special. He's definitely he's a rough diamond right now, and I think they'll get the best out of him, I'm sure. And thought it was great for him. But we'll move on to the last game on Saturday, the Rabbitohs defeating the Storm 28-12.
Yep, and it was 5-2 for the Rabbitohs. Cody Walker, Jacob Host, Alex Johnston grabbing 2 in his milestone game, and Isaiah Tass. They were the 5 try scorers for the Rabbitohs. 2 tries for the Storm, Remus Smith and Bronson Garlick.
Yeah, and unlike the last game, we actually got this one right, and Simon got it wrong. So we can do it too, Simon. You're nothing special. But yeah, Rabbitohs, it was another strong effort from them. It was a tight matchup for the most part, but they just made the most of their opportunities, and they got too many strike weapons to take lightly. They're a certain top 4 side come finals time. Where they sit in that top 4, I'm not sure yet. You don't need to show it now, Paul. Come on, don't be like that. But yeah, what was your take on the Rabbits?
Yeah, I think I'd have to say after that performance, they may be firming as the new premiership favourites in my eyes now. They've beaten pretty much all the other top dogs. They've beaten the Sharks this year. They've beaten Penrith. They beat the Dolphins, the Broncos, and now the Storm. So they're very much in form. They look very complete and tough to beat. And just sort of crystal ball gazing over their next month or so. A lot of very winnable games there for them. So I think that there's every chance they're going a really nice run and firm themselves right at the top of the ladder.
I feel like they're like that every year though, and then they kind of fall apart in the finals.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll go that extra push. But what was your take on the Storm?
I think they're just continuing their up and down performances this year. It's so hard to get a read on where they actually sit this year. Obviously they've had a lot of player movements, a lot of outgoing players, some incoming players. So I think they're still finding out how to play with each other. And they've had bits of their spine missing at pieces this year. So they've just been up and down. And I'm not sure. I'm still not sure of them, mate. I don't know whether they're going to bounce back and go on a big run, or we continue to get this sort of up and down all year.
Yeah, I'm on the fence on this. I'm doing a Richie. I've got on here the Storm were ahead on most of the stats in this match, but they just couldn't put anything together in their attacking sets. The pressure was on, and once the Rabbitohs put their foot down and put extra pressure, the Storm buckled, which we don't talk about ever. That's not a characteristic from that club. Normally, it's an interesting time for them, as you said. It's you're not that confident, but when push comes to shove, they're always a title threat. If you fast forward to finals time and say the Storm won the whole thing, it doesn't shock you. Right now, it might do because they're not being that great. But like Jacko's commented, saying Storm's lost the heart of their pack. They need time. I don't see them being a title threat this year, even though I said when push comes to shove, they normally are. I think there's bigger, better teams right now. But they need to build. They lost a lot of experience out of that pack, and that was always going to be the concern. That you always know they're going to give you a match. So I don't know if we play them again this year or not.
Yeah, I think we do.
Do we? Do we have them again?
I think we do at Mount Smart.
Okay. Well, hopefully they're bad still at that point. Who was your player that stood out, though?
I'm shouting out Alex Johnston, 2 tries, milestone game. Finally found the line again. I think he crossed for try 170, 171, I think it was. So,
yeah,
I got to give him some love because I tipped him preseason as my top try scorer, and he hasn't been living up to it yet.
And I've just looked. We don't play them again.
Oh, okay. I must have been thinking of someone else.
I got my little spreadsheet here of all the games. Bulldogs, Broncos, Dolphins, Raiders.
That's probably a good thing because we don't tend to beat them over the past few years.
No. Sorry I went on a tangent there. I needed to know. My player that stood out was Cody Walker. I think he's just playing really well. Really well. He was out there setting up some good attacking moves. When he's playing well and keeping himself calm, he's doing a bit of yoga in the week. They're very hard to beat. Fantastic effort from the Rabbits. Moving on to the game that I really want to talk about. First game on Sunday. Tigers defeating the Dragons 18-16.
Yep, my spike tip backfired. 3 tries apiece for the Dragons. Michaeli Ravalawa and Jaden Sullivan grabbing 2. For the Tigers, Stafford Tor, David Nofuluma, and Junior Tupou grabbing their 3 tries. So it was just Brandon Wakeham 2 from 3 conversions, and the penalty goal was the difference in the scoring in the 6th minute.
I heard they're giving Wakeham the key to the city. Tigers win again. I thought this was an entertaining match. This was kind of the match where I was like, I don't really want to watch it, but I have to. I thought it was entertaining, but both sides were doing their very best to throw the match away at the end there. Tigers scramble in the end did enough. They were just determined to not let a game slip. Not the greatest performance, but to be honest, right now the Tigers just want those wins. It doesn't matter if it's an amazing performance or not. But Jareen Bula is a talent on the rise, but my wooden spoon prediction I think is getting closer to reality. But yeah, before we talk about them, what was your take on the Tigers?
They did the unthinkable. They went back to back. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, asked anybody, they probably would have laughed at you if you said they go back to back. But yeah, like you said, young rookie, Jareem Buller is doing really well. He's made every post a winner since his debut, and hopefully he keeps doing what he's doing, and the Tigers keep doing what they're doing, and they keep marching on. They're looking a lot better the past 2 weeks.
Yeah. And your thoughts on the Dragons?
It's another woulda, shoulda, coulda close loss. I think Dragons losing within 6 points has to be at very short odds every week at this point. It's almost getting comedic at the moment. How they're just in games. I'm sure you're loving it. They're in games up to their eyeballs, but they just don't know how to get over get the 2 points over the line.
I'm not loving it that much because they are. It could one thing goes right and they win the game. So I'm on the edge of my seat, which we saw in this game when they had that kind of poor pass that Ben Hunt grubbered through, and then they went out to the edge. It looked like they were going to steal it. But yeah, I think Ben Hunt said it best when he was interviewed after the game. He said they just played dumb, which is kind of I've been a bit harsher, I guess, but they're a mess.
Yeah.
They made so many poor decisions in this match, and they had a chance and blew it. And I still don't think they're going to sack Griffin during the season, but there's no way he's keeping that job when he's not going to reapply anyway. But yeah, I don't know what they got to do there. I still think that they should probably bring Zach back.
Yeah,
but I'm not the coach. But I feel like anyone could go in there and try to fix it somehow. But yeah, they're a mess, and I'm loving it.
Bringing Zach back would be good. I actually don't mind the Ben Hunt to 9 and Jaden Sullivan in the halves too. I think that's got something to it. Sullivan looks like a talent.
Yeah. And your player that stood out?
I had to go with Jabula. Young man, first few games, but he plays like an old head, and he's doing it on both sides of the ball too. He's not just sort of applying himself in attack. That's 2 weeks in a row now. Last week he had the try saver on Cleary, and this week he had a try saver right at the end there too, which helped secure the win for them. So he looks good, man. I really hope he can keep it going.
Yeah, I went with David Norfoluma.
He was good.
Got himself another try. Thought he played well. He actually looks happy again.
Yeah.
There was all that talk, when he got lent out to the Storm, and it was like he wasn't getting put into first grade at the start of the season, and kind of looked like his time as a Tiger was over. But I think something's happened there where he's just enjoying himself again, and he's playing better because of it. Don't think that's going to help them this week, but fantastic to see the Tigers win. Very happy. But this was actually the one I had penciled in before we move on as the Tigers' first win when I was looking at the calendar. So because no one expected what happened last week. But very happy. We'll move on to the next game. Another surprising one. Cowboys defeating the Roosters 20-6.
Yeah, this weekend was full of surprising results. Was 3-1. Ruben Cotter, Jack Goski. Well, no idea. I hear the commentators say it multiple times a game, and it comes time for me to say it, and I can't do it. Chad Townsend, they were the 3 try scorers. Angus Crichton was the lone try scorer for the Roosters. What'd you make of it, Brad?
Cowboys finally remembered to play football. It wasn't a blowout by any stretch, but they showed good attacking moments and defended well. It's a long road ahead for them, but they're heading in the right direction at least again. They look a bit more confident. They've got an easy game this week, which will probably help. But yeah, what did you think of the Cowboys?
Well, I didn't see this result coming at all. That's for sure.
None of us did. We got all of us got this one wrong.
Yeah, they have been looking much chop all season, but come this game, their defense was really strong, holding a team full of superstars and threats around the park to just 6 points. Maybe the weather helped there a little bit. Maybe not. We saw the Roosters play us in similar weather and did pretty well. But yeah, I think a win like this can help turn the season around for the Cowboys. And looking at their upcoming matches, they've got the Dragons and the Tigers coming up next. So, all of a sudden, if they can pick wins up there, get 3 on the trot, they start to trend up towards where they want to be again.
Yeah. And your take on the Roosters?
You're just not in it at all, unfortunately, for the Roosters. Still too classy a side to be hitting the panic button just yet, but performances like this, they'll be wanting to get them out of their system real fast if they want to challenge later in the year.
Yeah, I was getting all ready in my notes to write down that they were the first team to hold a team scoreless, but they were going to become the second until Kreisig got over at the end there. But yeah, they just continue to struggle to score points. Perhaps not having Sam Walker out there isn't the genius idea after all. They're too good a side to be struggling like they are, but we all know they're going to bounce back. The Roosters are renowned for not having the greatest starts to seasons, but always finishing off really well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to lie and say I don't enjoy watching them struggle, to be fair.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, it's great to see the Cowboys bounce back. And yeah, Roosters, a lot of work to do. Who was your player that stood out?
I put the Chad.
The Chad?
Chad Townsend. Got a try assist. He looked back to the best version of Chad Townsend when he's leading the team around. And I thought he did really well. It's probably his best game this year.
Yeah. I noticed I hadn't picked a prop yet, if we don't count villains from the Dolphins. So I went with Ruben Cotter. Thought he had an outstanding game. He is, he's a tiny, tiny little man. And he goes up there against some big boppers and just does the work. I think he ended up with like 142 meters. He played like 60, 70 minutes. He's just the little engine that good, mate. And I really like his style. So had to give him it here.
Yeah, he's a beast, isn't he? Watching him go like that reminds me how much I miss seeing Jazz Tavanga run around. So
yeah.
Near
the final game, they saved the best to last. Richie, Titans defeating the Eels 26-24. If you want to give us that rundown.
Absolutely. So this one was 5 tries apiece for the Titans. Kieran Foran grabbed a double, Cam Pereira grabbed a double, and Brian Kelly was the other try scorer. For the Eels, Mike Acevo grabbed 3, Clint Gutherson grabbed 1, and Andrew Davey. They were the 5 try scorers. So, another game where goal kicking was the difference.
Yeah. So, I got a massive effort from the Titans. They started strong. They kept pushing in the second half. So another team like the Raiders that, they did their best to stop their fade. Still plenty of issues in the defensive department. But I thought this was one of their better efforts for the season. This was a game they really didn't have any right winning, but, they wouldn't be denied. So well done to them. Your thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah, massive win. After conceding very early, as it would be, Mike Acevo grabbed a try in the first minute.
Yeah.
After that, the Titans clicked into gear and pulled out to a nice 16-4 halftime lead. And they didn't relinquish that lead. Obviously got really close there, but I thought they were good value for their win. I thought they were definitely the better team out there.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Eels?
Games like this is what makes the Eels a tipper's nightmare. Massive game for Dylan Brown, but alas, games like this could be a regretful loss at the back end of the season. Is that Thunder, Brad?
It is, yeah, man. I got some thunder going on here.
That's quite loud.
Yeah. It's what happens in the dangerous town of Auckland, mate. My thought on the Eels. The discipline let them down. Losing Mitch Moses didn't help. If he was still there, would the goal kicking have been better? You don't know. But yeah, I thought they were on the back foot for the majority of the match. Had chances to take control in the second half, but they were panicking and making silly choices. They may regret this down the line, as you kind of said. But yeah, I'd like to say I'm surprised, but this is kind of what I expect from the Eels. They have a couple of weeks where they're really good, and then like last year, they'd go out and lose to the Tigers. And I don't know. I'm sure they'll bounce back. They got a tough game this week, though, so time will tell. Who was your player that stood out?
Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. I put Foreign. Grabbed a double. I just love Foreign. I've always been a big fan of his, and he's had some tough times in his career. But to see him grab a double, I think he's been really good for other players in that Titans team. Like I think he's had a good influence on people like Fafita. When you look how well Fafita's going this year as well. It's nice to see Foreign go well.
I picked Foreign as well. I picked him before I found out that he broke his foot. In last week's game, I was playing with a bung foot. Yeah, because he didn't look like it. He looked. This is kind of what they bought him for. What we saw in this game. It's starting to click into gear. I think a lot of it's confidence. He just needed to get some confidence. It's definitely making the players around him better. But it's good to see. Well done to him. But that was Magic Round. We go. I don't know what's first. Is it the ladder first, Paul, or is it the tips? It's the ladder. I was bottom, so I'll do top 8.
Yeah.
This time, Richie. So first place still. We got Broncos first, Rabbitohs second, Panthers third, Sharks fourth. So pretty accurate top 4 normally. Dolphins are sitting at 5th, Melbourne are 6th, Titans are 7th, and Roosters 8th.
The bottom half of the table, Canberra in 9th, Manly in 10th. Unfortunately, the Warriors are down to 11th now, but confident we'll bounce back. Newcastle in 12th, Parramatta in 13th. Cowboys 14th, Canterbury Bulldogs 15th, Dragons 16th, Tigers 17th. Sounds like the Melbourne Storm's in Brad's living room right now.
That one went really long. I'm concerned. So Tigers just need one more win, and the Dragons just need to keep losing. And we switch that around, and I get my wooden spoon prediction right, and I'll feel vindicated. But disappointed to see this is the first week the Warriors haven't been in the top 8. So bit disappointed there, but you're still in the hunt. Must-win game this week. They get the 12, then they get the 2 the week after for the bye. They're still in the hunt. So good for that. But there's some teams that, like the Bulldogs, basically, Parramatta to the Bulldogs, that space, they're kind of in that point where they need to start getting some games together if they want to stay there, because there'll start being a bit more of a divide. At the moment, it's still really close, but, in a couple of weeks, I think we're going to start seeing the top 8 and bottom 8 move apart.
Yeah.
And we want to go on to the tips, Paul?
No, don't put them up.
We can put them up because Richie's back at the bottom again. So Simon got 5 out of 8 this week, ending with a total of 51 out of 80 games he got wrong. He got the Storm, Dragons, and Roosters wrong. He went bam, bam, bam in 3 goes. I ended up on 5 out of 8, going to 45 out of 80. I got Sharks, Roosters, Eels wrong. And then, Richie, you got 4 out of 8.
Yes, the Dragons game, the spite pick.
You got the Sharks, the Dragons, the Roosters, and the Eels wrong.
The Dragons have to come through for me on one of these spite picks.
It's never going to happen. We're slowly. We're not going well with trying to catch Simon. I feel like anytime we have a good round, he either has a better one or has the same. And then Paul did his multi, as you see there, where he picks a multi on every game all three of us agree on, and the Roosters let us down. We get so close, Paul.
Well, you keep telling me that 1 week it'll actually come off, but at least it's only one wrong each week now. So you're getting closer, you guys.
Yeah. I did one because I'm an idiot. I do all 8 that I pick, and yeah, the Dolphins screwed that up for me early on. So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, so that was the picks. Simon's still ahead. We might have to have a discussion about kicking him out of it. But we'll go into questions. I saw there were a few questions that you got there, Paul. So
yeah, there are, and so I've had a couple of people ask us, have you gone out and purchased the Heritage jersey? I'll bring it up on screen so you can see what it looks like.
Yeah, I was meant to send you a picture for it, but no.
It's all Heritage apart from the sponsor, right? The sponsor that's not very that's not a Heritage sponsor.
No, but that has to be there though. But other than that, it's pretty gorgeous jersey.
I like it. Yeah, it goes back. Essentially it's the first jersey style I got to buy with my own money when it came out originally, because my family refused to get me jerseys every year. So as soon as I had a job, I went out and I bought myself one of those. The Heritage, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get it. I got the as a member, you get like a 24-hour window to get it first. I went in there when it opened, couldn't get one in my size. It was already gone. I don't think you can get any at all anymore. I think when I went on the website today, they had size small, which with the way that Puma do their sizes, that's one that you put on your dog. So, yeah, I didn't get one. Richie, did you manage to get one?
No, I didn't, mate. I want one, though. That's definitely one I want for my collection.
Well, yeah, the only ones available in the store are junior sizes. There are no adult sizes left.
And I definitely can't make that work.
And I believe they're wearing this game for the Dolphins game, correct, Richie?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So I'm going to cheat. I'll be at the Dolphins game. I'm going to wear the one from 2003, 2004 that I've got.
You're going to wear the original one.
Wear the original one. I'll be an OG. So if I can still fit it, pretty sure I should be able to, because that's the one I had when I was at my biggest, right, Richie? When I was like 21. I'm sure that's the jersey we wore back then.
Yeah, I believe you. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
How old we would have been about. That might have been from a couple years before you were 21, though. But yeah,
that one was, but it was still the same similar design. But,
yeah, it was.
And
so Simon's asking, what's the replica jersey from they went to the grand final with? So that's not this one, is it?
The one they played in the 2002 grand final was the black with the blue.
Yeah, and then the 2011, it was that Canterbury style where they had the black with the funny little thing around the neck.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is because it's 20 years since that jersey, and that was when they made the switch from being like wearing the more blue in there, and they were moving to the black. Like 20 years ago, that was when they did the big shift to say, no, we're not Auckland, we're New Zealand. So I think that's why they're kind of doing it. And he also asked, what time is the Warriors-Dolphins game? Warriors-Dolphins game is 5 p.m.
Yep, I agree with that one.
Yeah, so looking on my little spreadsheet. Any other questions from anyone else, Paul?
Yep. Could Metcalf play on the wing if he gets through this week's game in reserve grade?
No.
I think it is stretch, but it's a pretty big stretch when we've got other people that play well in the wing position.
He's not going to be there over Marcelo and Dallin.
Yeah.
I would be bringing him in though, but not as wing. I'd be bringing him straight into the house.
That's from Ken. From Jacko, he reckons should have Metcalf in straight at 6 as Volks is a specialist 7. Question.
Yeah. So in my review this week, I said I don't care that he hasn't played yet. Put him in there.
Where
he in at standoff
number 6. Yeah,
at number 6. He will be next week. I'm pretty confident. Or not next week, the week after, because there's a bye. He's playing New South Wales Cup this week.
Yeah.
So if he ticks all the right boxes there, come Broncos game in Napier, he'll be there, in my opinion. What about you, Richie?
Yeah, we kind of discussed it. Was it last week or the week before? I would have brought him in, but I also see the logic in giving him a run in New South Wales Cup to get some match fitness. He's been out a while. I believe they're playing him in halfback, aren't they?
They are playing him halfback in Cup. Yeah.
So looking at our team we've named for top grade, I think it's still a solid team, and it gives Metcalf a chance to get a game under his belt.
Yeah.
And Robbie wants to check out how your fantasy teams are going, boys.
Go away, Robbie. My fantasy team's going rubbish.
I'm not even doing one.
There you go, Robbie. That's the question for my boys. And what do you think about Saili maybe getting an early release?
See, this is what happens when you come to the show late, Christopher.
Oh, yeah, sorry, we talked about that earlier. So you have to go back and listen to the recording. You can watch that on the YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or you can listen to the podcast. Just search for New Zealand Sport Radio on the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcatcher. iHeartRadio is one of the ones I've most used. So yeah, that's all the questions for the live chat.
I know that won't happen though, Christopher. So we were like, it's not going to happen, but it might. We, as knowledgeable as we are, but no need to apologize.
What's more important?
But yeah, so before we move on to ours, I've actually got another question from Andrew, the editor at nothingbutleague.com. We didn't mention it in the fingers crossed for the job, Christopher. I didn't mention it in the news because I knew this question was coming, so we thought we'd cover it here. We'd talk about moving or expanding Magic Round. What's your New Zealand Magic Round wish list? Best time of year, ideal location, and should the Warriors have a designated home or away game for it? So if they moved Magic Round to New Zealand, how would you do it?
Wish list. Okay, I think it would have to be Auckland to get. Unfortunately, Brad, but Eden Park's the 50,000 seat stadium. It's closer to the city. I know, I don't like it either. I think it would have to be there. Best time of year, sometime between March and August. I don't know. Should the Warriors have a designated...
I mean, Auckland's underwater half the time. You're going to take it down to Wellington, surely, where you have at least one good day a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat Welly on a good day. Yeah, go on, bring it to Wellington. People can come stay at my house if they want. Should we have a designated home or away game? Well, seeing as though the Broncos have theirs as an away game in Brisbane,
we should get an away for it.
Surely they can afford us that same luxury.
Yeah. I'm the same. I personally don't think they're ever going to bring it here due to the time difference.
Yeah.
The Australians are really sensitive about having to stay up. Or it's different. They don't have to stay up late. They don't like it when it's going to be all. And yeah, that's kind of what Simon's saying in his comment. But yeah, I would actually, as much as I would love it in Auckland, so I don't have to bloody travel. Wellington, I think, is better if you're trying to emulate what they're doing in Brisbane. I think what Brisbane are doing are fantastic in terms of being able to go around. But Wellington, you can have it there and still be able to have that situation of walking to the pubs and all that.
Yeah,
you can't do that at Eden Park. You imagine trying to have that whole stadium like they do, trying to go to pubs nearby Eden Park. It's not going to do well.
Yeah, you've convinced me. I was trying not to sound like a patriotic Wellingtonian, but yeah, Wellington.
Yeah. It just, in terms of that, because it's not just about the games, it's about everything else around it. And Wellington, I feel, I might be, Paul might, he's a bit more of a seasoned traveller. I don't know what it's like in like Dunedin and Christchurch in terms of the stadium and the location to the local eateries and drinkeries.
What do you mean? The Christchurch one they haven't built yet?
I
was just going to come on and say, let's take it to Christchurch as part of the opening ceremony for the brand new stadium.
Yeah, but Wellington makes more sense in terms of all the other stuff, but it will never happen. We're talking about a pipe dream. And yeah, like Jacko said, the Cape Tin is a terrible stadium for the league. Yeah, I feel like you're too far away. That's the only detriment to it, but they want all the other stuff alongside it. So, and I was thinking like that they have like all that stuff outside the stadium for Magic Round where you can do that shit, that big walkway in Wellington. That kind of, I don't know. But yeah, we're talking about something that will never happen.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't take it away from Brisbane. I think they do it really, really well.
Yeah.
And they have the Caxton Street and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. We as we always do, we kind of took your question and just said, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we tried to give you a location.
Anywhere but Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney's the last place that can need to have it because they get more than enough. And it's, they get the grand final. So, why? And yeah, I think the Queensland government, like Simon said, they'll be interested in paying again because they make a fair bit of bob out of all the people going there for it because it's always successful. But yeah, your question for me, Richie.
Yep. So I just want to look over what our next 6 weeks looks like. Us being the Warriors. So it goes a little bit like this. We play the Bulldogs away from home, have the bye. We play the Broncos at home in Napier. We play the Dolphins at Mount Smart, the Raiders away, and then the Dragons away. How many wins do you predict from this block of games, and will that see us back in the 8?
All right. Bulldogs, win. Bye, win. Broncos, win, because it's the origin. Dolphins, no. Raiders, yes. Dragons, yes. So I'm saying we're going to lose one. Potentially two.
You think we lose at Mount Smart to the Dolphins? It's hard to doubt the Dolphins, isn't it?
We just talked about not doubting the Dolphins anymore.
Yeah.
So we can't immediately doubt them.
They haven't come to Mount Smart yet, though.
They haven't. There's a world where I could say we win all of those games. There's a world where I could say we win 2 or 3. It all just depends on the situation. Depends what players are back. But yeah, the ones I'm concerned with the most are Dolphins, Raiders, because the Raiders are in Canberra.
Put your neck on the line then. What's the record from those games?
We'll win we'll win all but the Dolphins one.
Nice, I like it.
So, what about you? What do you reckon? Yeah, see, it's harder when it goes against you, doesn't it?
I think we'll drop the Raiders game away.
But we'll get the rest?
Yeah.
All right, so we both think we're only going to lose once in the next 6 weeks.
We've probably jinxed it and we'll go on a 5-game losing streak.
We have now, yeah. Sorry, guys. All right, so my question for you, with the recent comments about the officiating, do you think the Warriors will see the rub of the green more this week or the opposite?
I don't think either or. I think it'll just be reffed like it is normally reffed. So does that mean the opposite? I don't know.
No, the opposite. I mean, they get like what we used to. They get a few dodgy ones go against them.
Yeah, so maybe that's what I mean. Maybe I think we'll just get reffed like it always does. Yeah, I don't think this whole storm it shouldn't come into the refs thinking during a game. Every ref should go out there trying to ref on what they see, bunker included, even though they still come up with some howlers. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be more of the same.
Yep. So sitting on the fence as usual with you, mate. We're going to see the rub of the green. There will be a few dodgy calls that go our way. It's in the back of the mind. John Paris planted the seed.
I don't want that.
I know we don't want it, but don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah,
we'll take it. So that was the questions. This means we'll move into round 11. We'll start off with the Warriors Bulldogs game Friday night.
Did you say the or not?
What? Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Christopher asked us, do we think they make playoffs? Yep.
Yeah.
I think they're a top 8 side.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially looking at our finish to the draw. We'd have to stuff things up pretty bad.
Yeah, they've got a favourable back end draw. So this was the hardest period. Like the 3 games just gone and the ones just before it were kind of a bit dicey. As we said on a preview show, I kind of had them at maybe 1 or 2 wins in the first 10 rounds, but then getting them towards the end. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a yes from me. So, yeah, Warriors, Bulldogs. You want to give us the Warriors team?
Yep, and there's a couple changes. So Chance is still at fullback. Yep. Dylan Watene-Zelezniak still on the right wing. We've got Marcelo Montoya, who's moved to the left wing in place of Ed Cossey. So the centres now are Rocco Berry in for his first NRL game this year, and Adam Pompey keeps his spot. Ronald Volkman comes into the halves for Sean Johnson. Adam Fanua-Blake, Wade Egan, Bunty Arfour is the front row. Josh Curran is in for Jackson Ford. And Marata Niokore and Tohu Harris are the other back rowers. Interchange bench, Freddie Lussick, Dylan Walker, Dimitri Sifakula, and Tom Ale.
Yeah, and the Bulldogs, we've got Haynes Perham at fullback, Jacob Carraz and Josh Adokar returning on the wing. Okay, I cocked up. I've got Jake Averillo and Paul Averillo, the brothers. It was a rush. I apologize. So Jake Averillo and Paul Alamoti in the centres. And then the halves, we've got Josh Reynolds and Matt Purden. Front row, Max King, Reed Marnie, Tavita Pangai Jr. Second row, we've got Corey Waddell and Jacob Preston. And then Raymond Faitala Mariner at lock. The bench, we've got Carl Olaapu. Butchered that, I apologize. I'll call him Carl Averillo as well. Got Jaden Akambor, Franklin Pili, and Harrison Edwards. So, Jacko's mentioned the Berry in before Valia is a surprise. From what I understand, Rocco had his first game in New South Wales Cup last week and knocked it out of the park, and Valia was struggling. So I think it was just you got to pick a centre, pick the better of the two on the day. He was always the one that seemed to be the next big thing out of the two and has let himself down a bit with some injuries and some poor games when he did have his chance. I'm happy to see him have another shot. But what do you think about the lineup, Richie?
I just don't want to see the ball in Rocco's hands on the 5th tackle.
No, I think they're better than that this year.
Yeah, I think they are. I'm happy enough with it, mate. Dylan Walker was filling the gap okay at number 6, but I do like him off the bench. And, a lot of those changes are forced. Curran obviously coming in for Jackson Ford, but I'm a fan of Curran, so I think he'll do a job. Yeah. I kind of agree with Jacko a little bit. I was expecting Viliami Valed to be named there, but given how Rocco played in his game of New South Wales Cup, he went really well, so hopefully it transfers over to top grade.
Yeah, and Jacko also said if we can't beat this Dogs lineup, we're not top 8 material. I think that's harsh. There's a good Bulldogs team, but I actually do agree with you. You want to be able to beat a team like the Bulldogs if you want to be a top 8 team. Josh Adokar, there's still a question mark on if he will actually play or not. I think he will. And he's going to be hopefully he's a bit rusty, but he's always a dangerous threat. I think it's going to be a tough match, but I have gone with the Warriors. I think, I do think they're going to get a bit of a few lucky calls, but I think they really know how much they need this win. They've got no travel. They stayed in Sydney this week instead of coming back to New Zealand. So they're a bit more settled. And, I think they'll get the job done. What about you, Richie?
Yeah, I'm going with the Warriors. We've come through the gauntlet and we have to win a game sooner or later. So I think here's where it starts.
Nice.
And Paul /Simon.
I would say Simon's back in town. Call the SPCA. The Warriors are going to be beating up the Dogs.
We're going to be like Michael Vick with these doggies, is what you're trying to say.
Oh, bad taste.
So that's that game. We'll move on to the rest of the round and our picks. So first up on what do we got? First up on Thursday night, we got the Storm Broncos.
Yep.
I've gone with the Broncos.
Oh,
I know it's an away game, but I feel like the Broncos are looking really good and the Storm is still a bit iffy. So I have had to go with the Broncos.
yeah, I went Broncos too. I was hoping you'd put the Storm.
I was close. I almost changed it this afternoon.
Yeah.
Boys, dear me, you got it all wrong. It's in Melbourne. Lightning is going to strike, and the Storm it is.
Right, and then next game was the Bulldogs Warriors. We've all covered that.
Clear, boys. 6 games clear.
Storm's wasting all its energy in Brad's living room right now.
Yeah.
It's I tell you.
So yeah, first game on Friday, we've all picked Warriors. Second game on Friday, we've got Panthers Roosters. I've gone with the Panthers. Roosters haven't done anything that great. Panthers, they got the win at home. They've got to do it.
Yeah, Panthers having chicken for dinner.
Oh, you've taken my line.
Sorry.
The cat's going to be in the hen house.
Absolutely.
See, I like that I go and look for all the news and stuff for the show, and you guys are sitting there thinking about puns. It's great. So we've all gone with Panthers on that one. First game on Saturday, we've got Rabbitohs Tigers. I've gone with Rabbits. Tigers have been great, but the Rabbitohs aren't the Dragons, so it'll be tough. I'm hoping to see the Tigers actually put up a fight, though.
Yeah, Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I mean, look, killer rabbits. I'm sorry, but those Tigers, their growl is worse than their bite.
Jacko's leaving us already. He knows Super League's coming, so see ya, Jacko.
Cheers, mate.
Next game on Saturday, we've got Cowboys Dragons. I'm on Cowboys. They got that win, but it's the Dragons. The Dragons, a bit like what you said, a win's got to come, but I don't think it's this week.
Yeah, I went Cowboys too at home. Dragons just keep losing, so Cowboys for me.
Yeehaw! Yep. The old lasso.
And then the last game on Saturday night, we've got Raiders Eels. I've gone with Raiders. It was really tough, but Raiders and Canberra. Got to win in doubt, go with Canberra.
Yeah, I went Raiders as well. I was hoping you'd put Eels.
Sweet. So we're keeping all the same picks. Love it.
Absolutely. I mean, the Green Machine, they've turned it around. As you said during the review, they've on a bit of a streak. So Raiders, it has to be. They've after a poor start, they were getting things going.
Yeah. Next up, first game on Sunday, we've got Knights Titans. I've gone with the Titans. Look at Richard's face. He has too. Yeah, I think the Knights are showing less than the Titans right now, so it'll be close, but I think Titans will get the job done.
Yeah, I went Titans.
Yes, in one for the Sci-Fi Channel, Titans to beat the Knights. Look on the old TAB, they're both $1.87. So
yeah, close.
The TAB cannot split them. But we're all going Titans. So interesting there that we're unanimous, but the TAB doesn't agree.
It's going to be interesting for you because so far we've all agreed on 6 games out of the 7 we've talked about. Last game, though, Seagulls Sharks, I've gone with Sharks. There's no way they're losing this one after losing last week.
Yeah, I agree completely. Bounce back game for the Sharks.
The Seagulls going to sweep in for a fish and find it's bigger than it's expecting and going to get eaten. So yeah, Sharks it is.
So we've picked every game the same except for the first one, Storm Broncos. Paul,
that's a big multi. That's
a big multi. You watch. This will be the one you get right, and we'll all be happy. So yeah, some good games in there though.
So I'll just bring up that.
Good games.
I'll just bring up that multi for you. So but as you say, yeah, it'll be a big win if it does come up. I only put $2 on, folks. So do gamble responsibly.
Yes, we leave the irresponsible gambling for me.
But let's just take away the ticker from the bottom there. By the way, don't forget that $2 could turn into $42 if that multi comes off. So there we go.
Nice.
Not bad.
There's no, I mean, looking at those odds, the only real dead cert game is the Rabbitohs Tigers at $1.15. The next one is at $1.43 for the Cowboys against the Dragons. So look, there's a lot of, if this one comes off, I'll be amazed. Let's be blunt. There's only one dead cert game this weekend by the looks of it. All the rest look like it's going to be a good weekend of footy.
There's no such thing as a dead cert game in the NRL ball.
Apart from the Panthers versus the Tigers.
The Panthers Tigers, that one blew up in everyone's face. So hopefully, fingers crossed that goes on. Paul will either be celebrating next week or crying about it. So we'll discuss that when we go over the tips next week. Before we sign off, we'll move into some Super League. Warrington are now top of the ladder, with Wigan second, Hull KR third, and Catalans fourth. Wakefield are now 0-11, and bottom of the ladder. They who have they got this week? I'll cheat. They got Hull FC, so they may surprise us and get a win. It's the right Hull to play at the moment. The Wigan lost, Richie. They actually lost to Hull FC. So if Hull FC can beat Wigan, they should beat Wakefield. But Hull FC defeated Wigan 14-10. Salford defeated Lee 22-12. Warrington defeated Wakefield 32-18. Hull KR defeated Uddersfield 18-0. Lee defeated Castleford 30-6. And Catalans defeated St. Helens 24-12.
Like that one.
So most of the games win as expected, other than the Wigan one, if I'm going to be honest, in my eyes.
Yeah.
The next round coming up, we've got Wakefield versus Hull FC, Uddersfield versus Lee, Warrington versus Hull KR, Castleford versus Catalans, Wigan versus Leeds, which should be a good game, and St. Helens versus Salford. So some good games there. But anything else you want to add before we sign off? I told Paul like an hour and a half, and we're just over it. So we're pretty good this week.
Not too bad, yeah. No, thanks to everybody for tuning in to our extra long episodes. They're getting longer and longer. Thanks for your patience.
I'd sit there for hours, guys.
I'm not even aiming for an hour anymore. It's like, we'll aim for 1 hour, 30.
I could sit there for hours doing this. So,
thanks. Thank you too, Paul. You do a good job sitting there doing what you do for an hour and a half plus. And stay safe, Brad. Sounds a bit rough for you.
It's stopped now. It's passed, I think. I don't know why I'm trying to look out the window. It's black out there, but I didn't get flooded yesterday, so I assume I'm going to be safe this time. Cheers. And Simon said it's funny, the bottom teams in the Super League are all from the same geographical area. So that's just where all the stink goes. Thank you for joining me again, Richie and Paul, for all your stuff in the back. And remember to tune in to our show next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesday as we discuss everything that happens this weekend. But until then, thank you for joining us and good night.
Cheers. Go the Warriors.